Welcome back to Lessons from the Front. And today's after action report is of a game that took place in South Africa whilst I was on holiday in my home province of KwaZulu-Natal. I was passing through the capital, Pietermaritzburg, when my friend Bruce Gordon invited me round to a game. Now, who am I to resist such a fine offer, especially from such a fine man? So off I went to his lovely home in the quaint village of Hilton, which is set in the hills above the city of Pietermaritzburg. Now, Bruce is one of South Africa's wargaming legends, having been in war games since the 1970s. And so I was not at all surprised by the magnificent table layout as I entered the room. He had set up a rural winter game somewhere in the Soviet Union and drawn up two 1,250 point lists, a Fallschirmjäger list and a Soviet list. And I got to choose which of those two lists to play with. Well, I must admit I ummed and ahed because both lists were pretty formidable. And I'll admit I chickened out and I let the dice roll aside and I got to use the Fallschirmjägers. So very briefly then, my Fallschirmjäger list consisted of 12 order dice. All the infantry were veterans. There were two regular units of a Nebelwerfer and armored car 222, two regular transports, both of them the standard Hanomag 251s, each with forward-facing LMGs. There was also an inexperienced Opel Mortier transport. Then three very well equipped Fallschirmjäger infantry squads, two 10-man squads and one 9-man squad. The 9-man squad had two LMGs and they were armed to the teeth with SMGs, whereas the other two larger 10-man squads had one LMG each, but they had Panzerfaust and assault rifles. They too were very well equipped. Then there were four two-man teams, a two-man second lieutenant team, a sniper team, a flamethrower team, and also a Panzerschreck team. Bruce's Soviet list, starting from the left of the photograph, consisted of three anti-tank rifle teams, one medium machine gun, a heavy mortar, then four 12-man infantry squads, one regular and three inexperienced, and one of those three inexperienced is the free inexperienced squad that every Soviet list is allowed to have. Then you also had a 8-man veteran assault engineer squad that included a flamethrower. You had a 2-man sniper team, a single-man second lieutenant team, two guns. One was a 45mm anti-tank gun, and the other is the field gun, I think it's called a divisional field gun, ZIZ-33. Then you had a self-propelled Su-76, and then that really nasty, scary, loud, noisy Katyusha, rocket-firing Katyusha. So those were the Soviets, 16 order dice. The buildings and stone walls provided hard cover, and the leafless trees of the wood and the wooden fences provided soft cover. The mission that we rolled for was double envelopment, and I was quite relieved that I had got the Fallschirmjäger list, because of their three transports. Because in this scenario, one has to not only try and get your units into your opponent's deployment sector, which you score points for, not only try and destroy your opponents, but you'd score maximum points by moving units off your opponent's table edge. Bruce won the die roll to see which table edge he'd be entering from, and he chose to enter from the side of the table that had most of the buildings. We both had to deploy half of our units on the table. So I deployed my Nebelwerfer, my lieutenant, with one of my squads in the woods, the leafless woods. I deployed one squad in the center of the table, hoping I could use it either to the left or the right, depending on where Bruce's units would be coming on from. Then I had a sniper in the yard, in the bottom right building, and then I put my 222 on the road. Bruce, he had his Su-76 positioned in the top right corner on the road, which had a good view of most of my right flank. Then he put a medium mortar in the central building. He placed the ZIS-33 gun bang on the road in the center of his side of the table. He also had an MMG in the building at the junction of the road, and he also put an anti-tank gun in the yard next to that building. And most of his infantry would be moving onto the table. He also had some anti-tank riflemen hidden behind the wall on the road that moved out to the top right of the map. Right, so here's a very brief description of what happened in our game, and I'm going to just break it into three sections: my left, my center, and my right. So firstly, on my left, I was using the Nebelwerfer in the woods in an attempt to keep Bruce's heads down. Those Nebelwerfers, along with his Katyusha, they have a terrible splatter effect when they do range in. But neither of us were actually able to range in with our rockets. But on that side of the table, I did move fairly aggressively forward with my lieutenant and one of my Fallschirmjäger squads, and I moved it up past the factory, on the inside of the factory, up to the wall. And Bruce countered this by moving units in from reserve. And it was on this top left corner of the table where a lot of the close assault action took place. My two squads were up against 3 or 4 of his squads, and just when it looked like he might overwhelm me with superior numbers, my Nebelwerfer finally ranged in and obliterated 2 of his squads, crippling Bruce's right. In the center of the table, Bruce placed his ZIS-33 gun on the road, right in the center of the table, and it dominated that road. And my armored car was forced to stay out of range, at a long range, and we exchanged fire. Fortunately, I was able to pin Bruce's ZIS-33 gun enough to stop him from damaging my armored car. I had a sniper in the building on the right, and that sniper kept trying to take out Bruce's MMG in the center of the table, but even though I was hitting him, I wasn't doing any damage. I tried to break the deadlock with my armored car, the 222, by racing it forward and placing it on the crossroads, and I used that armored car to blast away Bruce's heavy mortar that was situated outside the barn. And that heavy mortar really needed to be dealt with because it had just ranged in on the squad that I had placed behind, in the center of the table, behind the ruins. So I was really pleased that my armored car, the 222, was able to take out his mortar. But also I wanted that armored car to draw a lot of Bruce's fire away from my right, which is what happened. He climbed into my 222 with full force. He fired away with 2 anti-tank guns. His ZIS tried to fire, but because it was pinned, it went down. He was forced to try and take out my armored car with his Su-76, which also failed. But then finally he used his flamethrower in the thatched house in the center of the table to basically barbecue that armored car. And I failed my test, it caught fire, and that was the end of my 222. But that sacrifice that I made at the crossroads bought me time for an assault up the right side of my table using the Hanommags, and I was able to press hard against Bruce's left. A defining moment in the game came when I attempted to score 6 points by racing a Maltier that had a Panzerschreck on board up the road past his Ziz 33. I thought this was a bit of a reckless move, but the Ziz 33 was pinned, and very luckily for me, I was able to race my Maltier off the table and score 6 points. So having crippled Bruce's right side and having raced Maltier with the Panzerschreck team off his side of the table, and with my units looking ominous up my right side of the table, Bruce decided that there was no ways he was going to be able to win this game, and conceded victory to the Fallschirmjägers. So Bruce and I have just had a 1,250 point game here in KwaZulu-Natal, Hilton, at Bruce's lovely home. So anything that you've learned from this game, Bruce?
Yeah, you roll better, don't roll so many ones.
You did roll quite a few. Yeah. So my Fallschirmjäger, courtesy of Bruce's collection, had a great game against Bruce's Soviets. What mission did we play?
Envelopment,
yeah. And I managed to get 2 teams off the far edge of the table. We gave each other quite a lot of bloody noses. I think I had a narrow win.
You had a convincing one.
Oh, we're convincing one, all right. So anything you learned from that game? So what
fun was flaming your armoured car.
Oh, he flamed my armoured car. As I came past that building, his engineers came out and blasted my armoured car. I'll tell you what, throughout this game, what really got my nerves going was your Katusha, and I think probably likewise with the Nebelwerfer. Oh my days, they behave like heavy mortars. You've got a range in each time with a 6, but their splatter of damage can be quite severe. And right at the end of the game, I finally ranged in and took out 2 of your squad.
Yeah, no, those are mean weapons, which is all my armies have one.
Did you enjoy the game?
Yeah, no, it was good fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching another episode of Lessons from the Front. I trust that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please do remember to hit the like button and do subscribe if you haven't done so already. One final thank you to Bruce for being an awesome host. I really enjoyed that game, and I trust that we can play again soon. Until next time, happy gaming!